Welcome out, everybody, once again to the Boom Bap Breakfast right here on Black Power Media. This is the RemiX Morning Show. I go by the name of the Ear Doctor, and your host for the day is Kalanji Jamachanga. Let's give it up. Yeah.
What the deal is, allow me to say, I take full responsibility for all the dopeness we're going to bring to you this hour. Please be advised, we're in the building. This is the RemiX Morning Show. This is your favorite cup of coffee on the whole goddamn planet. It's pure blackness. Ain't nothing sweet or soft. We got it. Ear Doctors in the building. What's good?
Hey, now we got that elderberry tea right here for you, man. And we got Kamal Franklin is in the building, all black, ready to attack.
Okay. Elderberry tea. Did you get that from like some sea moss that we sell, like community movement builders? Yeah,
that's right. I mixed them together to make sure I got, me right.
He mixed what he like.
How come you ain't make fun of his Sade shirt? What's going on, son?
Yo,
I feel like anytime I come with that shirt on, everybody's got something to say with my shirt. That's my blue jeans shirt.
Nah, he rocking the Hall and Notes right now, man.
Little Hall and Notes.
Hey, listen. I'm not going to stand for your hatred. Tyranny's in the building. Tyranny, I'm glad.
Tyranny get it straight.
We had two ugly dudes and myself on the joint, so Tyranny came to brighten up the day for us. Thank you, Tyranny. What's happening?
Morning, everyone. How are you?
Good morning.
We're good. They already started.
Like you just had to drop the kids off, or you just had to run into the room, Tyranny. It was something
like
that. I know the feeling. I saw that look when you're like searching for stuff on the thing. You're like, what's
that? Like, where's my phone? Where's everything?
Oh, shit. Am I live? Anyway, man, it's good to be here on our Monday, which is Tuesday for the rest of the world. You know what I mean? But it's a wonderful day in the neighborhood, as Mr. Rogers would say. Notwithstanding, Kamal tried to diss my shirt. I see why he tried to diss my shirt.
He came with some pride.
He got the wedding shirt on.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
A wedding shirt?
Go ahead. You look like a
shirt, you know what I'm saying?
a stunt double for Mr. Miyagi. Anyway, we're in the building.
He came from Vegas, man, for the fight.
He said he what?
Looked like he just came from Vegas from the fight.
Look like he got knocked out in that shirt.
Hey.
not one laugh through the whole routine. That's sad. That's sad.
Funeral shirt. Everybody screaming.
Don't worry a complimentary smile.
Anyway,
Journey, how was your weekend?
It was good. I got went to New Jersey, just chill, watch the Netflix special everyone's talking about, nice chill weekend.
What was your Netflix thing everybody's talking? Oh, Chappelle.
Oh boy. I thought I got past that, man. You know what I'm saying?
I don't think we're going to past it for a while.
I thought you were actually talking about the Squid Games thing, because that's the thing that people seem to be also attached to.
Yeah. I mean, my husband watched that, and I watched some of it. It's a little too bloody for me, but I got the
Too bloody for you?
A little too bloody for me.
Well, welcome to the RemiX Morning Show. It gets no bloodier than this. You know what I'm saying? Don't worry. Ear Doctor zoomed out already. Hey, how was your weekend, brother Kamal?
Well, the wife is out of town, so it's me wrestling with the kids.
Okay.
Like Jared pointed out, I know this is going to be sexist, but it's like that's their fault. They leave, they know that they're going to get a little less care. They know there's going to be more hamburgers on the menu. You know what I'm saying? Like snacks are going to be like breakfast food, like pancakes and that kind of stuff, like whatever could be popped in the toaster oven. Like that's
going to the bodega to get their breakfast. Huh?
You know what I'm saying? They might get a little sip of coffee. It's like, you want to try the coffee? Yeah, don't tell your mama. I let them watch a little bit of Jaws.
Okay.
Right. I figured that it's like 1970 something. The graphics ain't as good, but there are a couple of amputated arms that float around in the water. I was like, well, you got to see some stuff. Y'all not from Brooklyn, so you're not going to get to see it in real life. You might as well just see it on animated film. So that was lovely, man. Yeah.
I never saw a shark in Brooklyn, but you know what I'm saying?
Well, I meant the amputated arm. The amputated arm.
Okay.
I meant that part. Not killed by a shark, but by other kinds of sharks. You know what I'm saying?
That could definitely happen in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah. So check it, man. We arrested.
How was your weekend? You didn't say how your weekend was.
I was about to tell you, it was dope. You know what I'm saying? Got to just chill with the children and everything. You know what I mean? Just hanging out. You know, my daughter turned 8 yesterday. You know what I mean? So shout out to Zuri.
Oh, happy
You know,
birthday.
yeah. She acts like she 18. That's a whole nother story. You know what I'm saying? And we did also yesterday, Arrested Development. They have a new single coming out. You know what I'm saying? So yes, Arrested Development. We made a little cameo or whatever, so we'll tell you about that later on. But yeah, I mean, it was a dope weekend though overall. You know what I'm saying? Glad to be here.
Tyranny,
Breathing.
do you know who Arrested Development is?
I know one song.
Just checking in.
What song is that, Tyranny?
I don't know the title of it, the big one.
Okay. We're gonna take you off the screen, Tyranny. You violating.
No, the big one. You know the big one that's always on the radio.
Everyday people. Everyday people.
Yes.
Tennessee.
Yes.
Tennessee.
No. Everyday. No. Oh, that's the song. That is the song. I'm
Same song, right? I think so.
Same song.
Okay.
Yeah. That's it.
In any event, Tyranny's like 17 or something out here. You know
I should know more. Like I'm 30, so I should know more. But
that's in hip hop years. You're 17. Don't worry about it. We got you.
Got you.
Yeah. Man, but it's a lot happening this week. A whole lot of dopeness coming through on Black Power Media. First of all, I want to shout out some of the shows from this past weekend. Your man Uncle Devin is killing the game right now.
True indeed. Yeah. True indeed.
Uncle Devin, if you have children, make sure on Saturday mornings, 10 a.m., they're tuned into Black Power Media. You know what I'm saying? A serious percussionist, singer, and I mean, overall, when you talk about children's shows, the only black children's show, you're going to learn about Africa. You're going to learn, I mean, the brother was talking about Ella Baker this past weekend, man. You know what I'm saying? How many children's shows can you turn on and talk about Ella Baker? You know
In fact, I might say, even if you ain't got kids, you might want to check it out.
Hey, boy, look at here.
Get a little bowl of cereal, little percussion instruments. You good. You good for the Saturday morning, B.
Come on, you chewing that cereal pretty quick, man. What kind of?
That's how you do. You got like you got to roll that up. You got to get that.
Okay.
You got the bowl with the milk.
As you can tell, when you grow up with siblings and whatnot.
This is what you do. This is your napkin.
That's how you do it.
Start your day.
So that's why all that stuff be on the shirt.
Always,
gotcha.
yeah. You know, there's a whole bunch of things. Yeah.
Tierney, you learning? Okay. I'd eat sloppy cereal, but yeah. So definitely Mix What I Like was dope. Balagoon, shout out to Balagoon for his show, Warrior Class, another dope episode. Y'all can go check that out. Ear Doctor Sundays, always live and direct. And you know, it's a lot going on today. Today, 1 p.m. live. We're gonna have Ward Churchill on deck.
Yes.
So folks who are not familiar with the COINTELPRO papers or how counterinsurgency works, you know what I mean? You definitely need to tune in at 1 p.m. today. Yesterday was Indigenous Peoples Day, which some of you all call Christopher Columbus Day. You know, one of the greatest murderers in the history of the world. You know,
maybe the greatest, actually. Maybe the.
Well, I don't know. I mean, he definitely. I mean, him and Leopold, they running neck and neck. Yeah.
There's a lot, but there's a lot of spillover from Columbus that, 500 years later. I mean, you can't take all the credit / blame, but there seems to be a lot of blood that's the spillover blood, brain disease, all that kind of stuff. And I'm not saying Leopold maybe not be a close second, but
I don't know. I mean, look at the Congo right now, though.
True.
I mean, like, I don't know, brother. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
Yeah. So anyway, the hell with all of them. But basically, Ward Churchill, just to tie that in, one of the things that we'll be talking about is the war on the Black Panther Party, which is the 55th year anniversary this week. We'll have a special joint coming up on that, but also just the atrocities that took place on the natives of this land. And I know that Kamal will be speaking about that a little bit later on today as well, correct?
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, so you're checking out the RemiX Morning Show, man. So what else is good, man? Any good things on the flicks or whatever? Tyranny mentioned the that particular show with my man DC. I'm not even gonna bring it up right now because I don't want no.
Yeah, act like I can't say Chappelle's name or some shit like
I'm cool. I'm cool.
He's like, I'm cool.
Chappelle's special guest.
There you go. It's like, God damn,
man.
no. God damn.
I mean, it seems like that's the never-ending story. I'm talking about people getting suspended, people getting fired. people getting dissed. I mean, it's like a serious civil war going on, and it's crazy. It's what we like to refer to as the sidetracking of the slave.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like Tierney just mentioned, what's going on in the Congo. There's so many things going on around the planet, and right now it's an uproar. The main thing on the news is what one man had to say. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, I'm just amazed at us right now.
But I will say, I think, without going into the special, because there's obviously a whole bunch of controversy and it could take forever to dissect, but I think that was kind of his point, that he made one special and he's now all over the news when there's a lot more serious things that we could be talking about. So it's kind of weird how unknowingly, I think the fact that people want to continue to belabor the point kind of proves the point that, you know, this society is kind of obsessed with sensationalizing individuals instead of focusing on the real life, everyday realities of people.
Yeah. I mean, it's easier that way. You know what I'm saying? It's like, if you really think about it, unfortunately, most folks who are not quote unquote freedom fighters, you know, they want to go for the weakest fight. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, instead of confronting, you know, this direct violence towards, you know, humanity, instead of confronting the destruction of this planet as a whole. You know what I'm saying? It's like we have these little tidbits that we deal with and we nitpick, and before long, you know, we forget what the original fight is about and what caused all the issues that we're beefing about anyway. Yeah. Because of the fact that it all goes back to one particular piece, and that is white supremacy, that is imperialism, it's capitalism. So once we tackle that, then all these other things will fall apart. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's my problem with cancel culture too, is that you will hyper focus on individuals. You know, if you believe cancel culture is a thing, I believe it's more of a Twitter thing, honestly. But the hyper focus on individuals when there's more serious things happening, like whenever Nicki Minaj put those statements out, people were so focused on, you know, basically, you know, shaming her. You know, for some people, I feel like it was for a good reason. But so many other things are going on. Even if you want to focus on the COVID issue, if you want to focus on how vaccines are being used, you know, like inside of African countries to bar immigration into other countries, like qualifying certain vaccines, or even what's going on with Cuba's vaccine. Cuba has had a vaccine, and the WTO has been refusing to approve their vaccine. There's so many bigger issues, and we hyper focus on celebrities. You know, to me, like just how social media works, it's social engineering. You know, we're really focusing so much of our energy, time, mind, articles, think pieces on things that have no causal effect to our everyday reality.
Hey man, I said if you're gonna use bullshit, use it for fertilizer, not to just step in it. Anyway, yeah, like that. Anyway, it's gonna be a great show. The Remix Morning Show. Kamal sipping his coffee. You know what I'm saying? In the building. Tierney's riding shotgun today. And without further ado, it's about time we bring the brother, the ear doctor, on board. Tell us what's happening today.
Yo, speaking of fake news, the new Superman is bisexual. I just thought I'd throw that in too. I mean, it's so much stuff that people need food to eat. This is like, give them something to talk about. Even with the whole Chappelle thing, just give them food to eat so they can just talk about it, digest it. I mean, you're literally picking apart an artist's art.
Well, I will. I mean, just not to go too far one way. Like part of it is that there is a right for people to be able to critique. On the other end, what's happening, how that may impact them, how they feel like they may be affected by some artist who has literally millions of people watching, and whether or not people are smart enough, which is not Dave Chappelle's job, of course, but whether or not people are smart enough to take that art in a certain way, or whether or not they see it as something that could be more inflammatory, and then therefore they want to debate and discuss and so forth. So I think that happens. And, you know, whether folks like it or not, you know, folks have a right to say that their own representation in society is not adequate. And so therefore they want to fight for more representation. And so therefore having characters or other people who are represented, you know, of them gets held up. The problem becomes, of course, like I guess what everybody is saying, when people do that and forget about, like, think representation means necessarily means that you're ending oppression, right? And it doesn't.
Right.
The two are not necessarily equatable at all. So folks need to be able to differentiate between those things, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't beef with anyone's issues. You know what I'm saying? My thing is I'm against oppression as a whole, and again, I guess we all look at the fight, quote unquote, in different ways, and that's cool. You know what I'm saying? As long as my thing is fight. You know what I'm saying? If you're going to be for animal rights, fight for animal rights. If you're going to be for the environment, fight for the environment. Whatever it is, pick your battles and pick them wisely. That's what I say.
We're going to look back at this time as the in your feelings era. But let me get into the weather era. So that's what I'm going to do right now, right here on the Remix Morning Show.
Remix Morning Show in the building.
Feelings. What's good, everybody? Welcome out to the Remix Morning Show. I go by the name of the Ear Doctor, and this is another Boom Bap Breakfast. Make sure y'all hit that like and subscribe button. Tell a friend to tell a friend. The Remix Show is on once again, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Tuesday through Thursday. And go to patreon.com, drop some chains in the bucket so we can keep this movement going. With that said, we're going to go ahead and get to the weather for the day. As you see behind me, it's a nice fall, beautiful autumn day. So let me start first with Miami, Florida. Big up to Miami, Dade County, all the different counties down there. The high today in Miami, Florida is 84 degrees. Next, let's take it to the west side, all the way over to Seattle, Washington, where they got a high today of 51 degrees. And then let's take it to San Jose, Costa Rica. If you plan on going, go get your vacation on or whatever, they got a high today of only 76 degrees. So it ain't that hot. I won't even get in the water at 76 degrees. It got to at least be 80. Next, let's take it over to Africa. We're going to go to, let me get this right, Ras Mabura, Tanzania. Did I get that right? I might have. Well, anyway, they got a high today of 89 degrees. And then let's take it over up top to Österlen, Sweden, where they have a high of 41 degrees. And that's colder than the white man. But not just your regular white man. We're talking about Russell Mora white man. This white man gave Tyson Fury, they just had a fight this weekend over in Vegas. It was Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. They just had a fight. But the referee right here, whose name is Russell Mora, this dude let this guy, Tyson, stay on the ground and do an 11 count instead of doing a 10 count and allowed him an extra second. That's a cold white man. And that was a cold white man, Tyson Fury, because he did his thing. I ain't gonna front. He put it on Deontay, but that was a great fight. But that's what it is today for your weather report. Now let's get back to the morning show. You know how we do. Yeah. What?
Whoa.
Oh, ho, ho.
Shirt.
Man got a cheap shirt on.
That is
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, look at that man right there.
It's my indigenous people African shirt, African liberation shirt back at work.
But you
Okay.
raided my mom's closet from 1975 or some shit like that. That was her disco shirt.
I thought he was a Jamaican rugby player.
Man, stop fronting.
Oh, okay.
Clean.
Brown?
The boy is clean when he comes to work. Stop fronting.
You got on the Gordon Luttrell. I see you.
That made somebody give us a little money, that shirt. Look at that.
All right.
Big up
This is
David
Gordon
Isaac.
Luttrell. I hope everybody got that reference. That was cold. That was colder than the white man.
That's definitely colder than the white man. Hey, listen.
But I had to jump in here because I'm sitting here watching the show, and every time Kalanji does the weekend wrap up, my shows get cut.
Oh,
I mentioned them. You got to go rewind.
I maybe I missed it on the way from the car to the office.
He said it so fast. He probably could have missed it. He said it so fast.
He probably did. He probably did. Jackie joined me yesterday morning, and we did get into Chappelle a little bit more.
That was dope. I saw you got a couple things.
Yeah, we got into a few things, but anyway, I just wanted to, but it was good. It is good. I hope you all don't mind. It was nice. I got here a little bit early and the classroom is empty.
Hang
You know,
out.
got a little bit of time. And I'm excited because my propaganda studies class is coming to the Ward Churchill joint later.
Okay,
Oh, wow.
okay.
So they're gonna
Propaganda
be, yeah, they got, I mean, what better way to get a class, you know,
That's
a lecture
dope.
or a
That's
lesson
dope.
on propaganda than from the man himself.
I was gonna ask you, were you joining today, man? I ain't hear nothing from you, so that's good. We ready?
Yeah, I told you I was. You just
Okay.
you just forgot my message, like you forgot my show. But that's all right.
Whoa.
That's all right.
See, when
That's
you
all right.
rewind it, you're gonna be like, yo, I tried to play my man.
No,
I was the
I'm
one
gonna-
like said your show was whack. I said, yo, his show was on point. I'm trying to tell you.
I'll just apologize now. I'm sure I did miss it.
We ain't gonna
That's
forget
cool.
that shirt. I'll catch y'all later.
Yeah, Doctor still hate, man. So this is cool, man. This is a rarity that we get Dr. Jared Ball on a Tuesday because he broadcasted live from a university. Then some of y'all, we ain't gonna
Morgan State.
Morgan State University. How many cats you
The
know?
Premier Urban Research Institute in Maryland.
Oh, say that one more time, man.
The Premier Urban Research Institute in Maryland.
Now tell us what Mama's Biscuit was. What's that?
I was going to just say
Yes. the greatest funk band in the history of Western Maryland from 1997 to 1999.
Hey,
Shout out to Mama's Biscuits.
Hey, with that in mind, let's go to the news. This is out of
Hey,
control.
real quick, this is not an ascot, it's a mask. So stop.
I
Everybody
was.
stop.
That's what I thought.
I was wondering, man.
I'm like Roland Martin in the house, y'all. What's going
You
on?
know what I'm saying? I said our mascot got an ascot. Let's go to the news. Was at the Remix Morning Show in the building. Dr. Jared Ball looking cleaner than the Board of Health. You know what I'm saying? Tierney Cherie's in the building, straight out of Africa, and Kamal. Well, he's here too. Anyway, Remix Morning Show. What's going on, man? I know Kamal got some good news for us. What's been happening out here in this world, brother?
Well, I don't know. We want to consider it good news, and it ain't good news, but it is destruction news by the Europeans. So I wanted to start. Yeah, yesterday, of course, was Indigenous Peoples Day, and I wrote a post. I was like, I'm sure they'd rather have their land back than have a day named after them. It's similar to me about the whole Juneteenth thing. But this was a study done a couple of years ago, just in remembrance of that, and based on some of our earlier conversation, where it said European colonizers killed so many Indigenous Americans that the planet cooled down. A group of researchers concluded, and part of their study was to say that when Columbus arrived in 1492, violence and disease killed 90% of the indigenous population. And according to this study, that equals about 55 million people. Diseases like smallpox, measles, and influenza, which the colonizers brought, responsible for many millions of the deaths. And then the new research that they were putting out is that this rapid depopulation is responsible for the first global cooling trend. And the reason they're saying that is because there is so much let me find the exact quote, but there was so much sort of arable land that was right here. It says London found that after rapid population decline, large swaths of vegetation and farmland were abandoned. The trees and the flora that repopulated that unmanaged farmland started absorbing more carbon dioxide and keeping it locked in the soil, removing so much greenhouse gas from the atmosphere that the planet's average temperature dropped by 0.15 degrees Celsius. So that's part of the article. It's a really good article, and again, it's a little bit dated, of 2 years old, but it talks about the impact not only of the killing of so many Native people and the diseases that were brought, but also the fact that it may have led. People usually point to the Industrial Revolution as the place where sort of the global changes in climate began to happen. But they're saying you can point back to an earlier time period because of that, not only the actual killing, but the actually bringing the disease that caused literally, again, millions, tens of millions of people to lose their lives because of always based back on what the Europeans have done, but because of what the Europeans done.
You know, it's crazy because I heard some folks talking about, let's, I'm glad that it's Indigenous Peoples Day, right? But to me, and it's just my opinion, to me, it's like changing, like saying, it's not murder, it's homicide. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, it's still commemorated on the day that this bastard, so it's like replacing Christmas with another name. You know what I'm saying? I say that we boycott that day altogether and celebrate every other day as Indigenous Peoples Day, because when you talk about Indigenous people, you're talking about the Indigenous people not only of this land, but of the planet itself. So, salute to all of those who fought to try to resist, you know what I mean, when this bastard came along. So you talk about 50 million people and the changing of the climate. That's some, that's really serious, man. It's really serious.
I agree, and nobody does symbol better than this country. So to see Biden get up there and talk about how he's going to support the renaming and all this other stuff, it's perfect because there's nothing coming behind it for real.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It also reminds me of every time that Africans try to get their land back, there's a specific reason, or any Indigenous people try to get their land back. There's a specific reason why the United States government has found it in their interest to help outside governments maintain their dominance, because it's only a matter of time before those same people start drawing the parallels between the fact that you have a government right now that is on occupied land currently. There are people who are currently dispossessed. It's a reminder as to why the United States has to take a position on Zimbabwe or South Africa or Namibia and so many other cases where the government has gone out of their way to reinforce settler colonialism.
So Zimbabwe just did a national day of remembrance for the land grab. The United States would come send Biden over. He'd be part of the ceremony. They put a wreath, next to the dead Africans whose land was taken. And then they'd feel like have somebody spoken whose land was taken away from them, shed some tears, come back and be like, "Oof, we did our job." But reclaiming the land, now you're going to get vilified, destroyed, pilfered, all the rest of it. So yeah, symbolism.
I'm waiting for the day that when the ancestors just reach out and grab their asses and snatch them into Neverwary, you know what I'm saying, and just make them feel all the pain that they've caused on people across the planet, then and now. Those are, in the immortal words of George Jackson, man, you know what I'm saying? Always one of my favorite pieces, just hearing him talk about reparations in blood. You understand what I'm saying? That's the only reparations that really matters at this point. Because even if we got the land back, these bastards have destroyed it. They've destroyed the planet itself. And that's why they're trying to run and race to these different planets and so on and so forth so they can colonize the universe, So, yeah, man, it's...
I don't know why everybody's tripping, though. The Washington football team changed its name.
What is the new name, actually?
The Washington football team. That's literally the name. They have not chosen a new. They delayed adopting a new name and are still playing and losing under the Washington football name. The so-called Susan Harjo curse remains. That she said since the early 90s, you will not win another Super Bowl or meaningful game until you change that name, and that has remained true.
Hey, man. Well, back to kneeling. Anyway, what else we got on the tray today?
Well, I got another story I can share real quick. Unless somebody got something they want to pull up.
I got something, but I can wait.
Right. No, go ahead. You got it.
Well, I wanted to bring up the article.
Trinity is going to cause an outrage, but go ahead, Trinity.
No, I was going to say the article that came out about the NFAC leader, Grandmaster Jay, detailing more about his charges, his prosecution. Also, something I didn't realize whenever he was indicted for pointing, they said he pointed a gun at agent that was supposedly on a building. He pointed a gun at the agent and for somehow was able to walk away with his life. And the police a couple months later come back and remember, hey, you did this without having acted like he actually pointed a gun at them. I didn't know Instagram actually closed down his account whenever he was indicted. And I also was not aware of the specifics, you know, as far as the prosecution, how they're really like trumping up these charges. And it's crazy to see this happen in real time. I understand he was a controversial leader, but we can also draw parallels between this and other leaders who you may or may not agree with in the past, as far as how movements are shut up and how movements are easily disrupted. And, you know, from what we saw, this was the largest militia, I think one of the largest militias period in the country, but definitely the largest Black led militia. So the tradition of armed self-defense is clearly a threat to the government. And unfortunately, it's harder for us to actualize, I think, because of things like this.
So what? Ooh, I'm glad I showed up today, because if you all remember when this story first hit like a year ago, I said, because I watched African Esquire, and I said, sister disagrees with members of the folks on this channel on this issue.
Oh yeah,
yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
so let's go. So
okay.
I'm glad I'm here. Go ahead. I got my coffee. Go ahead.
First off, ding ding ding. It's like tag team. We love you, Tyranny.
Let's go.
Okay, what are the current charges? Because I'm not up on that. Let me get. I mean, you know what I'm saying? What's going on like right now? I know that, you know, they brought up some, but I'm just like,
I don't know the actual, and I have the article, but I didn't see it.
He's been charged. It's funny that because another friend of ours and a friend of the show sent me this yesterday, and it's a very the article is actually a very well written, interesting article that goes in great detail into this organization and their history. And the charges stem from again, the claim was that he pointed a rifle at an agent. Okay, and he has been totally removed from social media. I think he is awaiting, if I'm not mistaken, he's awaiting trial. But he is banned from communicating and gathering, all kinds of stuff like that. But one thing that I saw in the article that I just happened to send back to the friend that sent me, I texted this, that resonated with me. The article says, quote, while his organization has marched peacefully and respectfully, he said, referring to Grandmaster Jay, the leader of the group's commentary, mostly white groups have intimidated protesters and barged into government buildings carrying weapons with little interference from police, end quote. And that I found interesting. So I understand that there's a BPM platform disagreement perhaps on the value of this organization, but I do, or at least that does resonate well with me in terms of the fact that while white folks with guns are working with support from intelligence agencies who were involved in January 6th as well, are storming government buildings and creating all kinds of whatever. This mere presence of armed Black groups professing a willingness to defend aggressively their communities has led to what seems to me an imbalance in treatment. And I have seen some of the video, if I'm not mistaken. There's even controversy as to whether or not he did point a weapon at anybody. But so anyway, whatever we think, I think the imbalance in state response is pretty clear. Anyway.
And it says he faces potentially 3 to 27 years in prison if convicted of the charges he was indicted for.
Right. I think,
and they did point out in the article, they were sorry, I just want to say they did want to clearly point out that his support numbers have dwindled.
Now, and I'm gonna try to be how can I say this?
Non-Kalanji.
Yeah, let's try that. I want to say my issues with this brother, right? You know, because of the fact that, you know, I'm pro armed struggle. You know what I'm saying? That's not a secret. You know what I mean? I'm against the state. You know what I mean? That's documented. But at the same time, you know, I look at his track record. First, I see the joint where the whole fake DJ thing, when he tried to jack my man Jazzy Jeff style with the fake commercials where he was acting like he was DJing and whatnot. We can get past that. We have past lives. But then the second thing was the whole, being in North Carolina with a Black Lives Matter shirt on, taking the shirt off around the police and everybody, talking about all lives matter. You know what I'm saying? He said, it's no longer Black Lives Matter. He takes his shirt off. And everything I'm saying is documented. You can find it on the internet. Video of him doing it. The third thing was him at the Trump rally when he's doing security in the audience, when someone was making noise and he jumps up and he's looking back and he's, trying to defend the position, right? The final issue I had with him, besides all, it's a whole ass of them, but we're not going to go all the way there right now. We don't have that much time. But the next thing, it's like during COVID, before the whole piece with what's my man name that was nailed on? Forgive me.
George Floyd.
Before Floyd and before Rayshard Brooks, they had this whole, he was DJing COVID concerts on the internet. This is stuff you can go to this page, you can see him. He wasn't talking nothing about no radicalism, no revolution, none of that type of stuff. But as soon as shit hit the fan, you see him and a whole bunch of other actors, literally actors in the Atlanta area, popping up out of nowhere, marching around, talking about armed struggle. I respect a cat that's consistent. If you're serious about what it is you're doing, I don't care what you do, but you have to be consistent with it. What I saw with this guy right here, and this is my opinion, is that he saw an opportunity. And there's a difference between an opportunity and opportunist. Of course, I label him as an opportunist because of the fact that what he did is he inserted either him or somebody or some agency inserted him inside of this situation. The same time when he hit the news about them marching on Stone Mountain here in Georgia, a little girl was murdered on the other side of Atlanta at the Rayshard Brooks piece. 200 or more quote unquote armed militia marching on a mountain that wasn't going to do anything to no damn body. If he was serious about organizing and his crew, if you had 200 to 1,000, whatever the news reported and whatever it was, men, women that were armed, those same people could have been split into the communities of Atlanta, and we wouldn't have to worry about police terrorism because of the fact that that's how we can control our own communities, because of the fact that you have brothers and sisters who are standing up and are concerned with the thing. Now, I'm not dissing everybody that was a part of the piece because of the fact that there's always sincere forces within the ranks of organizations. I question who this guy is. You know what I mean? Do I think he's going to get time? No, I think they'll recycle him and use him for something else. That's just my thought.
But I think, let me say this. I don't have a deep connection to the organization. I don't have an affinity for his ideology. There's a lot of things in his ideology I don't agree with. There's a lot of things in his background that I think are very shady. And when it comes to people like that, I have to look at what precedence is being set rather than whether I agree with that specific person or think that this is a person who is going to be a real threat to the capitalist global system. And with him, my concern is that we did see play out in front of us on TV, on social media, a Black militia rise up. And this is the first time in a long time for some younger people, this is the first time they probably have ever seen an expression of African people armed, and seeing the withdrawal of white supremacists who are used to inflicting terror on the African community, seeing the withdrawal of them and seeing them have to basically watch their back. You know, this is our first time seeing this if you're of a certain age. And the precedent that's being set, I think, is dangerous. One, because going forward, we have a lot to consider, because it seems as though armed organizational struggle will not work inside of this system because they can easily eliminate you. And two, also just the feds being able to very easily put these charges. The charges are just like ridiculous to me. I mean, I don't know who could believe that this is that this is actually true. And so, although I agree with like a lot of points being made, I think like if we're talking about what's helpful for the movement, we have to keep in mind that there are going to be implications if he is convicted, or if he does just get, like you said, recycled for another use. There's going to be implications for the future of organizers who feel that there's a potential to arm ourselves.
And I understand the symbolism behind it. You know what I'm saying? It's just like real quick. I remember my grandmother, when there was Obama won the election, right? I talked to my grandmother, my grandfather the next morning, and my grandmother's like, wow, I can't believe, we never thought that we'd see a black man in office. You understand what I'm saying? We never, in a million years, I would have never thought that I would live to see a black man in office. She told me a story, and I might have mentioned it before, but she told me a story about how she used to have to clean white folks' homes and cook for them and so on and so forth. And when they had company, she would have to eat in the pantry while all the food that she cooked for these other people, they were out enjoying it in all over the house. But she had to sit in this small pantry to eat her food. So I understand, and I understood the symbolism behind it. I understand with the youth, like you said, there's certain things that hasn't been seen, and there's certain things that may inspire, so on and so forth. But what we must be careful with is the fact that counterinsurgency rules, and the state will always put out testers and feelers to get an idea of what's going on and who will be moved by what. You understand what I'm saying? It's just like social media. It's different people that have come online and you'll think they're the hardest revolutionaries, so on and so forth, but they're down with the get indicted hotline. You know what I'm saying? They're setting you up. And that's what counterinsurgency and COINTELPRO is about. So, I pray that dude is legit. As a organizer for over 3 decades and being around different individuals, so on and so forth, man, listen, I don't see that. Not at all. And that's not the diss, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, you or your thoughts, but nah, because of the fact that realistically, if you're serious about going to war, you're not showing everybody your arsenal and what you got anyway.
Go ahead.
No, you go, Jay.
Well, I was just going to say what I just very quickly. If I understand, Tierney, what you're saying, what I like about your perspective on this, and where I think I agree, is that I am concerned with how the broader community is being encouraged to interact with even the idea of what he's doing. Take away him specifically or that group specifically, just the idea of what he was saying he was doing seems to. I'm concerned about how that is playing out in the broader community.
I think that what's important about that part is that, again, whether or not we don't think this person, whether or not some of us don't think this person is serious or this person doesn't have a particular history, this person has been targeted by the federal government of the United States and has been indicted on charges that other, let's say, similarly situated white militias have not faced, right? And part of that is, again, whether or not we think he's serious, whether or not he has a history in the movement, is because for whatever reason, there was a display and there was a lot of Black folks who showed up with guns, right? And they could have just left this dude alone. But instead, what they've done is cut him off from his social media, his platform. Obviously, he's been indicted. He faces, relatively speaking, serious charges. Whether he'll get convicted, we have no idea. They seem like silly charges, but they are serious charges because they're basically making some claim close to attempted murder, even though they're not saying he pulled the trigger, but they're putting some seriousness behind these charges. And I go back again to the similar point that whether we agree with those politics or not, this stops others who may be doing similar, even if it's not as public, but there's other folks on social media doing similar things that have not necessarily gotten a mass following. Does this sort of dry up even the idea of whether or not we have a right? People talk about Second Amendment and stuff like that, whether Black folks have a right to organize themselves. And at this stage, he didn't do anything that would be considered, quote unquote, illegal. It's not like he took troops and surrounded a Capitol or something like that. He just marched up and down with guns, something again that's supposed to be constitutionally protected, something that white militias do and more all the time. But yet this one particular Black organization, because it was able to attract mass numbers, and whether or not we are confident in terms of what the attraction was meant for, but they were able to attract mass numbers, Black folks in fatigues, red, black, and green, showing weapons, claiming to be protecting the Black community, whether they were doing it or not. They have been targeted by the federal government. And that's part of our history of militant resistance. And so I think it is something that, again, that we can't just dismiss, that we should follow, that we should update. And in some ways, I think at least some support to say, like, whether, again, we agree with somebody's politics, it's less important now than whether or not we try to make sure someone doesn't get convicted because of these charges, because of the precedent it sets for other militant, direct action, confrontational politics.
I think that we also must keep in mind, all of us, regardless of law, regardless of our position, regardless of what happens with white folks, that we are still Black in America. And I think that sometimes we operate as if there's truly some type of equal rights. And we know that, deep inside of our soul, we hope and we pray that certain things happen and certain things don't happen and all of that type of stuff. But I hope that, he's on the right side of history. You know what I'm saying? On the right side of the barricades. I just kind of get stuck. Like I said, I'm just wondering, how do you get clearance to even be in the audience at a Trump rally? You know what I'm saying? Things like that are like, and I'm sure there's ways, but I'm just, but like you said, yeah, it is. All of this is important. It's all lessons because of the fact that, there are always going to be young folks rising up, and to be quite frank, young folks are the freedom fighters, man. These are the folks who's going to get out there and do what needs to be done. So I hope that that we, you, us, are not led astray, and we don't get caught up in emotionalism and sensationalism, and forget, what the end goal, the end game is, and who the players are, in their positions.
Yeah, and the power of the state, right? The power of the state to, again, whether or not it's about equal rights, it's more about what rights we do have that we need to try to fight for, exercise, gain more of, and not give back. So it's not necessarily about we need to be equal to white folks, but we need to make sure, again, that in this particular position, that whatever happens to this person could mean that, it could be the next person we consider a more serious organizer or somebody who has more of a track record. It just makes it that much more easier to convict others if somebody who, again, has demonstrated the ability at least to get thousands of people out with arms to say that they're trying to protect the Black community. Again, whether or not that's the actuality of it, they've said that publicly. They have obviously been targeted for potential prison time, and it's not after he went to the Trump rally he was targeted. It's not after he did the spinning he was targeted. It's after he did this display of militancy that this organization and this individual has now been targeted. And again, but the other important thing is that he's been denied even the ability to communicate with a larger audience, because these social media platforms have also said, we're going to take you haven't been convicted of anything, but we're going to take all that down and make you sort of like a voice in a small voice that you can't even get your platform of people to just put out your own side of what took place, or your own side of trying to get people to come to your defense. And so that's also something we have to keep in mind, how these platforms will, when necessary, when it's not about them, work hand in hand with the state, right? To make sure that if the state says this is a boogeyman, this is a bad person, we got you, boss, because we want them profits.
Which I thought was the bigger story that I wasn't aware of, that the social media platforms did shut him down. I thought he was just in hiding. Like, I didn't know he was silenced by all these social media accounts. And I hope that possibly we can have people taking track of when Instagram and Twitter and all these things decide to shut people down versus when they don't, because to me there's a really strong a really strong case to be made that these institutions are collaborating discriminately, with the government. Sometimes they'll I just never heard of that, like someone's waiting trial and just shut them down. Like,
that's deep, that you could say you thought he was in hiding when he was being hidden.
Yeah.
That's a major problem.
No doubt. And hey, definitely, salute to you for the story, because of the fact that we need different perspective. We need to look at all of this from different angles. And for the folks in the chat who immediately say when you're talking about safety, they confuse that with fear. There's no fear. You have to be intelligent. You understand what I'm saying? You could be the baddest motherfucker in the world, but if you're not intelligent, then you won't win. You understand what I'm saying? You have to be sharp with your movements. So life is like chess. You don't just get on the board and start pushing pieces around. You have to be strategic with what it is you're doing. So that goes for all of us when we talk about organizing. We have to have our strategies and tactics in order, not just moving off emotions, because we can get out there looking tough as possible with some ashy ass black boots and black suits and yell black power to the end of our breathing, and that won't change none of our conditions. You know what I mean? But definitely salute to all of you for this perspective. We have a few more minutes before we go to the break. Anything else?
Well, I think it's messed up that I got a Gordon Cottrell and he's wearing dusty, clothes. I mean, the fashion police on the remix is strong this morning.
Hey, man,
I know we don't mess with the police, but the fashion police clearly. So it's not it's not FTP, it's just FP.
See, we got too many haters on the platform. I see why it took so long for Tierney to come on with us. She's like, yo, they be hating on that. I don't know. Speaking of Tierney be on Riot Started TV tomorrow, talking about her book. You know what I mean? So if you don't mind, tell people about the book you have released that many folks don't even know is out because of the fact that,
I probably didn't do the best job promoting, but I wrote a book. It's published in January of this year. It's about somewhat about my experience as an attorney working in child welfare system, but more about a lot of the things I didn't know until I went back and researched about the history of social control in the child welfare system, how there's a long legacy as to where we see today African families are targeted by the system as a means of controlling the African population. It's previously been used by on the government to control other people who were seen as a danger to the United States government. And so I wrote a book on this because, one, I don't think a lot of people who work inside of social services understand the structural racism that is at play, even when we think we're doing good. The thing we're told is, we're intervening to help the family. We're intervening because the parents are a danger. We don't understand that there's a long history of precedent that has allowed this to be the knee-jerk reaction to systemic racism created by this system. And then also, we don't understand the harm that we cause, by these interventions. So, it was a plea to, one, people who are working in these services to understand the racial implications, and two, to the African community to please organize so that we do not have to be inside of a position where we're allowing outsiders to determine what's in the best interest of our people and our families. So. And I was also told, please check out African Esquire TV on YouTube if you have not already, where I cover different topics as well.
Please do. Also, what time are you on Riot Started TV tomorrow live talking about the book? And give us the title of the book, because I don't think you mentioned the title.
Oh, no, sorry. It's called Fostering False Identity. Oh, what time did we say? I thought it was 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock. I gotta look through my phone.
I asked you because I forgot. We'll make that tomorrow.
2 or 3.
You know what's happening tomorrow.
At one point tomorrow, there's going to be a riot starter and Tierney.
That's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Thanks. We appreciate that, Tierney. We're going to take it to the ear doctor real quick, and we'll be back.
Yeah. Let's get into a little bit of sports talk. A little bit. Just a little bit.
Not soccer, though.
Yeah. What's good, everybody? This is the Remix Morning Show. And we like to talk about different things here on the breaks. This time we're going to talk about a little bit of sports. We got football season going on and everything. With some decent games. Basketball's coming back preseason. But since we're talking about basketball, we're talking about politics and Columbus Day, let's talk about what's going on in Texas. And one of the coaches from the Spurs, which is in Texas, and go to where he was actually giving a little bit of talk about his thoughts on Columbus Day and how the schools in Texas are treating it. So with that said, let's go ahead and check this out real quick for you and yours. All right, this is Coach Popovich talking about the schools celebrating Columbus Day. Let's go.
You mentioned that, but it made me think a little bit beyond. I think the proclamation was obviously appropriate, important, needed, and all those sorts of things. But I'm a little confused about our city and why it's Indigenous Peoples Day / Columbus Day. Columbus. I mean, he initiated a New World genocide. That's what he did. And beginning with him and what he set in motion and what followed meant the annihilation of every indigenous person in Hispaniola, which was Haiti and the Dominican Republic today. That's what he did. He took slaves, he mutilated, he murdered, and they're gonna say slash and honor him. Well, I got to give the San Antonio Independent School District a little bit of credit because at least they added Indigenous Peoples Day along with it, and that's a step in the right direction. But what the hell is Alamo Heights thinking? It's Columbus Day. That's why they're off on Monday. Maybe there's something I'm missing and I'm ignorant, but it makes me feel like they're living in a phone booth and they're educating our kids. Columbus Day, and we're going to honor that. And it's no knock on Italian Americans. That's a silly argument. It's like saying we should be proud of Hitler because we're German. I mean, it makes no sense. It's about Columbus. It's not about Italian Americans. And so there are a lot of states that have come out and scratched the Columbus Day and made it Indigenous Peoples Day. But in our city, are we that backward that we have school districts that do that? I'm amazed.
I, my friend, too, am amazed. But hey, I'm my friend too. I'm amazed, but at the same time, this is America. They'll get around to it. But that's what I had to say about sports, because really, that's the only thing I really cared about talking about when it came to sports. So let's get back to the morning show with the crew. You know how we do. All right. Yeah.
My light is bad. But just real quick while I go fix my light, shout out to Panama that beat the U.S. men's national team 1-0 in World Cup qualifying. Viva Panama, Vincent Amos. That's why my lights went out.
That's why your lights went out. Yo, Popovic is a beat. Yo, he said things like that before, so I give him credit. You know what I mean? It's like it feels a little shocking to hear somebody who's like a mainstream sports coach say that stuff, because that's how like depressed it is in terms of common knowledge and language that people talk about Columbus. So it's good that somebody who has that kind of platform will say something so direct. And for whatever reason, his job is not in jeopardy because he's a white man in America. So good
Hey,
job.
you keep winning, you're gonna keep your job. And this dude been around more brothers all his life. He like the white shadow. I mean, he's been around these brothers all his life. So he's talking to them, relating with them, and need more allies like that when it comes to what's going on.
White shadow, Kevin Hooks. I remember that show.
You know what's sad though about this whole thing, man? The fact that it is even a thing for folks to have to speak out Like this system is so damn ridiculous. I mean, it's like the fact that it's even a federal holiday. And I remember what black folks and elders had to go through just to get King Day. You know what I'm saying? And Columbus Day was just like a no-brainer. You know what I mean? So it's just amazing, man. But you know, it's the world we live in. But anyway.
Yeah. So that's the sports news for the day. I'll catch y'all later. Peace.
Thank you, Doctor.
Anyway, leaving out all that soccer stuff though. I don't understand.
He tried to diss the soccer, man. But speaking of that,
so much good stuff happening.
Speaking of that, man, how your man get knocked out like that, man, the other day, man? I mean, that was like, I mean, damn, man. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
About Wilder?
Like, yeah, it's like, man. And I remember my man was talking like, man, tough shit like a couple years ago, and then he just like he's sleeping. They got all kinds of memes, all types of videos. I mean, it's just like crazy. I'm like, damn, like what happened? You know what I mean? It's got the brown stew chicken.
Look, I didn't see the fight. I've only read and seen a couple things about it, and I'm certainly no expert in that game. But sometimes you just meet a better fighter, and apparently this Tyson Fury dude is just a better fighter. And so I don't know, but he do talk big stuff. He said he claimed the last time he lost was because his African outfit and the helmet was too heavy and it exerted too much energy walking to the stage. Now Ear Doctor does raise an interesting point though. If dude got, because he did knock Fury down, so if Fury got an 11 count, I do know a little bit about boxing, and that's a big deal. Getting even 1 extra second to get up on your feet is a big deal. So if that did happen, that's shady. And then Wilder might have an argument, because I understand he's not taking this loss too well either. But I don't know. But sometimes, Kalonji, this is sometimes a better fighter. I don't know.
That's what it is.
Hey, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. He because apparently the first time they fought where Wilder won, he shouldn't have won, if I remember correctly, right? There was controversy, like he didn't decisively win that one either, and then he lost the second one, and then he lost this one.
Yeah, I don't know. I miss old boxing, man. I mean, like, and I feel like a elder, but 80s boxing was like boxing. You know what I'm saying? That was like, that's when it was, you had to be a fighter to fight. You know what I'm saying? On all weight classes. You know what I mean? You had the Sugar Rays, you had the Hearns and the Haglers, you know what I'm saying? The Lexus Arguellos and the Durans, and you know what I mean? It's like, and the Alis and the Larry Holmes and Spinks and all those guys. Now it's just like, man, it's not the same thing. I think the more money they got, it kind of just watered everything down across the board. But that's just me. I could be wrong.
But is it true? I honestly don't know the fight game well enough. Is it really true that these fighters are not as good as those fighters back in the day, or are we just? Is it just? I don't know.
No, I don't think I can't say that they're not as good because of the fact that you can't just put a blanket statement. To me, it just seemed like it was a hungrier sport back then, and I think that you had so many skilled fighters that it was so many different attractions. You know what I mean? So it was just so many heavy hitters. You know what I mean? So many folks with technique and style and flavor, and I don't know, man. I used to watch
the heyday of boxing back in I don't follow it either no more, but that was the boxing that Kalonji's talking about was pre-MMA and all that kind of stuff. So boxing reigned supreme when it came to like fighting sports. There wasn't a lot of competition for boxing, and at some point when boxing became sort of a clown show where they would start mixing you up with anybody, and fighters didn't want to fight certain fighters, and they would fight lesser known fighters and wait years to put off the good fights, that they seem to lost their ability to sort of capture the audience and stuff like that. So, but the
fight I want to see is, I don't know if you all pay attention to this because you all don't watch the some of the white left media that I watch, but I want to see, because apparently Cenk Uygur from the Young Turks said he wants to fight Joe Rogan. And he's a bigger man physically, so he will wipe Joe Rogan up. And then so you talk about MMA.
I think Rogan would beat his ass.
But I think Rogan would destroy that man. But that's the fight I want to see. I want to see.
You know, should be on the undercard. They should put
who?
Tyson and Umar Johnson, because Umar said he wanted to fight Tyson.
Umar said he would want to fight Mike Tyson.
This fool, I saw this video the other day talking about.
No, he didn't.
The man said a charity fight for the school. He said he think he could do 5 rounds. He said he don't think he can win, but he think he can do 5 rounds. Listen, I used to box.
First of all,
a 3-round fight. I don't think Dude could do 3 rounds. I mean, I don't think Dude can do a round personally.
Seriously, if you haven't, if you're not really training, I don't think you could do any rounds. And I don't care how nice he is with his hands. Umar is not ready for Tyson, even in his 50s. And you're not training. So unless he's been quietly, you know, and when I haven't been paying attention, which is true, I haven't. While I haven't been paying attention, if Umar has not been deep in the gym, even still. Did you see Tyson in his last training joint?
Dude, listen,
I mean,
man. I don't care what gyms I'm
for a
in.
dozen years and he got
yeah, exactly.
That's all for social media. That's all for social media. Yeah. He got what he wanted. He got a mention someplace. That's what he wanted.
He did get a mention.
He got mentioned here on the Remix Morning Show.
Yeah,
but even even to the point, just the conditioning you need for 3-minute round or 3-minute rounds or 5 rounds, there's no way.
No. Somebody pound like Mike Tyson hitting this dude even once.
Dude, listen, man. Listen, first of all,
I wouldn't even get in the ring, dude. I would be like, if I see Mike Tyson training, I'd be like, even if I was like, no.
Hell no.
I'm gonna watch
BPM just gonna have to BPM just gonna have to find a charity fundraiser another way.
First of all, I couldn't even imagine getting a rib shot.
You bit off somebody's ear. No, that dude ain't playing by no rules.
Listen,
man, I kept hearing, I don't know if it was true, but the rumor I kept hearing was that even when he got locked up, nobody was messing with him in there either. So I was like, if they're not messing with you in prison, like I thought they were going to definitely try him in the joint. I thought somebody was going to be in there like, I can get Mike Tyson.
Look, man, but the dude bit somebody's ear off. You know what I'm saying? The motherfucker bite the ear off. I mean, like he gonna win one way or another. Even if he loses, he gonna win. I remember the whole Mitch.
No, the charity would be. My bad. Go ahead.
Nah. I was thinking about Mitch Green when Mitch Green confronted him at Dan's. Mitch Green's eye was like this.
But he did break his hand though,
and he didn't give a fuck.
Broke his hand.
And Mitch Green was tough though too, but yeah.
He looked a mess after that, and I remember that eye took up the whole page. It puffed up to the whole photo was his eye. Listen, but the charity should have been what I was hoping that he was going to do with Roy Jones. Like the charity would be go into the ring and everybody sit down and you have an interview about your boxing career. That's the only way I'm getting in the ring with Tyson. Because if there's a microphone and a table sitting between us and a couple drinks of water for a long conversation, some comfortable chairs and shit. There's no way.
I don't even know if I go on his podcast because I done seen some of his podcasts and shit. He start bugging out because I just can't see Mike Tyson sitting there smoking a split, be like, "Hey, Kalonji, you know what I heard that shit you was talking." I'll be like, nah, kid, that wasn't me. That was Kamal.
And that's the line he's gonna quote. That's the routine he's gonna quote right before he starts swinging on you.
I know that was a bitch move. Like, yeah, I know, man. I think you're right, man. I told Kamal, don't say that shit, Mike.
Well, unlike my colleagues, I listen to our production staff, and the ear doctor is saying we need some news. So
we need some news. So excuse us.
Yeah, that's
you
know what I'm saying.
You know what I'm saying. Ear doctor man, he ain't on the convo. That's what it is. But anyway,
they can't talk about sports without me.
Exactly. Look,
Jared might say something about soccer.
Which he did.
I did.
Exactly.
Hey, Viva Panama, man.
Yeah, I got a story.
You go ahead and rock something, man. Matter of fact, you know what? I want to talk about something real quick, man.
Go ahead.
Do you know the whole thing? The fact that John Hinckley Jr. First of all, they're talking about he's going to be off supervision in June. He's been out of prison for 5 years. He was living with his mom. His mom just transitioned or whatever. He's making YouTube videos, the whole thing. Now, for folks who are not familiar with John Hinckley Jr., he shot 4 people in 1981, including sitting president Ronald Reagan. Okay, so he shot Ronald Reagan. I forgot what's the other cat that ended up dying a few years later.
Was the law was named after him, right? Wasn't it? Why do I want to say Branch?
James Brady.
But I don't.
Yeah,
Brady. That's what it was. Brady.
Yeah,
That's
so he
right.
was the
Thank
White House press secretary, and he shot a Secret Service agent, and he shot a police officer. Now, the ill thing about this whole situation, you have Sirhan was just granted parole. He assassinated Robert Kennedy. John Hinckley Jr. attempted to assassinate Ronald Reagan, a president. But you have all of these political prisoners who are still locked up. That shit's amazing to me. These brothers are accused of murdering police, but these cats actually killed the president and killed dignitaries and whatnot, murdered them, assassinated them, and they're out. I mean, it's an amazing thing.
I mean, it's obviously Kalanji an issue where our political prisoners, pun intended, aimed too low. Their targets were too low. Clearly what the state is saying, if you want to get out, you got to get a bigger target. Right. And if you shoot these lesser targets or accused of shooting these lesser targets, we're going to keep you in. That's the punishment. You have to aim higher.
Remember, John,
it's crazy. You're right. It's crazy.
Yeah. Remember, he was. He said that he had a crush. He was
Jodie Foster.
Yeah, Jodie Foster. He had not a crush. He was. I mean, he was infatuated. He was just like crazy over, and he was found not guilty by means of insanity, reasons of insanity. You know what I'm saying? So this is what we talk about when we talk about white folks and black folks. Like we were talking about the joint earlier with Grandmaster Jay. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the fact that you can actually attempt to assassinate a president and you're out in this lifetime. I mean, it's just amazing, man. You know, but
it is also, in all seriousness, I mean, one clear, obvious, aside from the racial piece, one clear, obvious difference is the political nature of the crimes. If you can be dismissed as a lone lunatic, as was the case with Sirhan and Hinckley, it's obviously less of a threat than if you're seen as part of an organized, clear, political, ideological movement.
Black,
and well, black as well. But I'm just saying. But I mean, I'm even thinking in terms of just some of the white allies locked up. I mean, it's the clarity of their politics that caused all of this. So it's all right. Come on in. So anyway, I'll leave it there, good folks, and jump off as my class is getting ready to start, and I'll let you all continue on. I appreciate you letting me jump on real quick this morning, and
we'll see you tomorrow, right?
I'll catch you all next. Huh?
We'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, see you tomorrow morning right here at the Remix Morning Show, and maybe with another Gordon Cottrell special, man. Shout out to the ear doctor.
Got them BPM checks getting shakes out this month.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. I like the t-shirts. Peace.
Anyway, tomorrow, it's just you and I, man. It looks like Renegade Culture again.
Renegade Culture is back in the house.
Renegade Culture in the morning. What y'all feel like doing? Anyway.
Okay. I got a quick story.
He's been froze on this end.
Who froze? I froze?
I've been froze for a while, but I'm talking like I haven't been. I don't know if y'all can see me.
No, you have not frozen from where we're at. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So I just wanted to share this story. This was something that popped last week. A bunch of mainstream papers covered it, but I don't know if we really talked that much about it. The underreporting of police killings. And so there was just part of it that, again, I wanted to touch on, which was, according to a report in the Lancet, between 1980 and 2018, police in the U.S. killed an estimated 30,800 people. This number is 17,000 more than reported by the National Vital Statistics System, which is a misclassification rate of 55%. The death of Black people are the most likely to be undercounted, with 5,670 deaths missing out of an estimated 9,540 deaths. And the reason this story obviously we already know that, what happens is we are killed more by the police. And now, even in terms of being killed more, we are undercounted in terms of those murders by the police. And it's not the police themselves, which are mislabeling their killings of Black folks. It is the fact that the coroner's office, the medical examiners, they themselves are the ones supporting the police, supporting what the police do in terms of labeling these killings anything other than killings by the police. And so what's important is that we got to understand that the police themselves work in tandem with, always with, the other system, the other offices in the system, whether or not that's the medical office, again, whether or not that's the prosecutors, whether or not that's the judges, that the system works hand in hand to make sure that the police are protected, right? That that whatever the police say in most instances, it gets printed as fact, and so that we understand it is the police themselves and not the person who's considered innocent before proven guilty, that the police always have the ability to have their story supported, to have our lives either vanished or disappeared, and or to have us painted as criminals and sort of as a criminal set. So that, I think that was an important story for us to talk about. I see we lost my man Kalanji, which is fantastic because this means this is now the Kamau Franklin Show, brought to you by Kamau K. Franklin. And I think that's just the way we should proceed in the near future. So for y'all in the chat, y'all should recognize that the show is now mine and that there are no more. God damn.
Yeah, we couldn't do that. We couldn't do it.
I was about to rebrand and everything, man. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, continue. No, I'm just playing. Hey, real quick, I appreciate the news. Thank you for bringing some news to start to sound like a gossip show after a while. So I appreciate the news. I'm gonna go ahead and give y'all a little taste of some Black Power Media programming. So let's get to it.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
You good?
What's good, everybody? What's good, everybody? Time for another quick break with the Ear Doctor. What we're going to do now is we're going to show you some of the programming that's here on Black Power Media, starting with one of our new shows. I want to put y'all on to a very dope, kid-friendly show. Even if you don't got kids, just something to watch and learn about, because it's not just small stuff. It's big things, history lessons. It's how to play instruments. And nowhere else will you find it like that. So let me take y'all to, oh, did I get rid of it? Ain't that something? I got rid of it. So what happened was, so basically I was going to show y'all some Devin. With that said, I'm going to give y'all a little bit of artist spotlight and show y'all an artist that's a pretty dope artist. He goes by the name of Sizzler Kalanji. And if you don't know about him, let me give y'all a little piece of it. So here we go with my people's Sizzler Kalanji. Why is this thing? Sizzler Kalanji. Let's go.
That's a fire liberty song, real majesty song. Well, then, what about we have something? What about we have something? What about we have something? Yeah, what about play something? What about play something? What about fire liberty say forward, pull up down. Fire liberty replace and you know so we're. I'm Mr. Forward, pull up down. Fire liberty, welcome. The reason split I got no vitamin, I love no switcher. The switcher, them said them bad, but them listen this year. So them wicked, me wicked out with them nice fuck it, yeah. This fire liberty, you did judgment, the box of it, I'm the ritter. You did say youngster in the shot of it, I'm the letter. You got some like around them, them, the gather. I can't put it on the internet, I put it on the Twitter. But I run the man because I cup a shot, we getting people, cup a shot. Post some boy face like a sticker. We no jump fire liberty, nothing like it. I did me on the city, you body well it. Well, forward, pull up, talk. Fire liberty in at the place, girl, them pull up. Forward, pull up, at the cycle.
Yes. That is the one they call Sizzler Kalanji. And in case y'all didn't know, this guy has over 50 albums. 50 albums. So check him out. Straight from Yard. You know what I'm saying? Straight from St. Mary, Jamaica. Guy got it. So check him out. Sizzler Kalanji, one of the conscious reggae artists to take the throne after Bob Marley and a bunch of other people. So check him out, Sizzler Kalanji. Speaking of Kalanji and Kamal, let's get back to the Remix Morning Show. You know how we do. All right. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that, man. That sounds like that's the real Kalanji. I like that. I think we have that Kalanji. You know what I'm saying?
Word. I mean, you know, I do a lot of hip hop. I had to make sure we expand the whole music form and bring in different artists from different genres and stuff like that. So
yeah, no, that was hot. It was hot.
Yeah.
So we got, our other man Kalanji. He got that broken down computer, so he's going to get that back up. So we're gonna continue on. But what you gonna say? What you gotta say?
I was just saying, speaking of his broken down computer, please make sure y'all go to patreon.com and help us to get Kalanji good internet service, computer, microphone, new face, better t-shirt, better denim Hall and Oates, Billie Jean denim shirt and all that.
Yo, I mean, he got a point. If there's any reason for y'all to hit us up with some resources, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, as we always say, you're not going to get this kind of programming in other spaces. You're not going to get different radical political views on other places, and just a multitude of different views that we have. My man was going to show the kids show, the Devon show. Again, we got the Ride Starter, I Mix What I Like, Remix Morning Show, several other shows that we got on. Talk Black, Black Myths. So you're not going to get that on other platforms. So we definitely need your support, and we still trying to get the resources so that we can do some investigative reporting, and we can really build up this platform to be what it is, to be 24/7 news on what's happening in the Black community. So y'all just keep that in mind. We appreciate all the support we've gotten so far, both here on the channel and on Patreon. But we need some more. We know some other channels, some other folks. I don't even know they got the audience that we got, but we probably just don't ask for money the way that they ask for money. But they Patreon is like hitting 800-900. So whatever y'all can do to help support, we want that support.
Yeah, we about giving that news and information. And speaking of, big up to all the people that tuned into Sundays this last Sunday. This next Sunday that's coming up, we actually gonna have this one right here, Sundays, was going to be Big Daddy Kane, Karis One. We're going to take you back to the 80s, and I'm going to do an 80s mix. And then after that, we're going to watch the verses. And so it's going to be a great Sunday once again.
So even I want you to stay with us here, Doctor. I'm going to do one more news story. We got a guest coming up soon. But I want to do one more news story. I like the camaraderie of having my man, the Ear Doctor, on the screen.
Let's go.
We talk about all the stuff that the United States does not like to pay for, the United States does. And part of that talk about that is because we know this is what the United States really likes and really wants to pay for. So the title of this story, which is on the Progressive magazine, is why does Congress fight over childcare but not over F-35s? And F-35, of course, are planes, military fighting jets. And it, really quickly, it says this week, before the Democrats' $350 billion per year domestic package hit a wall of corporate money bags, all but 38 House Democrats voted to hand over more than twice that amount to the Pentagon. And so the Pentagon was given recently the 2022 military budget bill, the National Defense Authorization Act, or NDAA, that passed the House on September 23rd. Would hand a whopping $740 billion to the Pentagon and $38 billion to other departments, mainly the Department of Energy of nuclear weapons, for a total of $778 billion in military spending and a $37 billion increase over the year's current military budget. So that's $778 billion a year. Meanwhile, when you want to talk about childcare, when you want to talk about health costs, when you want to talk about free education, all that stuff. There's wrangling, there's back and forth. There's threats of walkouts, but the Democrats themselves huddle together with the Republicans to say, you know what we care about? What we care about is making sure that the military apparatus, that the imperialist apparatus is back in order and it stays in order so that we can continue our military maneuvers all over the world and control shit the way we want to control shit. We don't care if you get the money. We don't care if that trickles down to you, but we care about keeping our military apparatus intact. And that's what that shows.
That defense budget is big enough to fight the space invaders. I mean, I'm saying, who are they fighting?
The world, right? In the world.
Everybody.
They fighting that sweatshirt you got on. I heard you talking trash.
Oh, this circle is hot, man. Don't even. I'm saying.
Yeah.
Billie Jean.
1982 couture.
Now we get
anyway,
Tony
H. Yeah, that's right. Black power and unity is a must. We appreciate that.
No doubt.
I'm gonna let y'all take over. This is above my pay grade.
Oh yeah. Okay. Thank you, sir. Yeah. Anyway, man. Hey, come out, man. I heard you try to take the show over, brother. What's up?
It went well. It was going well. The numbers are going up. As soon as you guys pop back on screen, it was like
start going back up.
Yeah.
The stock market crash as soon as we show back up.
See how it go, man. Hey, Jared, man, I think we should just take over the Remix Morning Show and fire these guys. What you think?
I mean, clearly it's a fight. It's a struggle. Every morning it's a struggle for Remix supremacy.
Hey,
you know what I'm saying?
Hey, real quick. I want to say the next time y'all come over to Sundays, I'm thinking either Outkast versus Tribe or Jay-Z versus Nas. What's y'all thoughts in the chat room?
I think either one works. What was the first one?
Tribe versus Outkast.
Tribe wins that one.
Ooh,
it's kind of heavy.
And you said that in Atlanta?
I'm from Brooklyn. Tribe is New York.
You said that in Atlanta, though.
Clearly, he don't come out in Atlanta.
Tribe is New York all day long, son. Tribe.
Okay.
I'm gonna figure out who team I'm gonna be on that one.
What?
Oh, yeah.
I love both. They both got bangers, especially with the production and all that.
I mean, for me, it would be Tribe, but I do respect Outkast. I mean, I do respect Outkast. You know,
I mean, I think they both bring different things to the table. That's a hard joint right there. But Outkast has their, I mean, they both got their own style, and I think for the different time periods too, because of the fact that when they came into the game, I mean, it was good for the sport. Basically, I'm gonna say that.
That's a good point.
But Sunday, just know that it's KRS all day. I love.
I have to agree with that. And as I shared yesterday, I took that to the barbershop. I made an appearance at the barbershop for the first time in years.
Oh yeah. You got your nose hair plucked.
No, I was actually taking my cousin to get his stuff together. He actually has a real head of hair. And he needed to ride to the barbershop. So while I was there, of course, when you sitting there, they, everybody trying to hustle. So they saw some beard hair and were like, you want your beard touched up. You can clean up your head a little bit. So I was like, yeah, why not? And sure enough, right after a whole beef about the value of being in the military popped off, there was the debate about the verses came up, and I said, I'm KRS. I said, there's no category in which KRS loses. No disrespect to Kane, but what category is KRS not proficient in? And that led to a whole.
Did anybody say Kane could be KRS?
Say what?
Did anybody say Kane could be KRS in it?
Oh yeah, it was a big deal. Like, it was a big problem. Like, a lot of people of our generation were getting their cut that day, and it became a massive issue. Like, I was I was not on the majority side. Like, there were more Kane, and their argument was he has more actual hits than KRS.
Oh well, I will say this: KRS One ain't got nothing for them Teddy Riley. I could get the job done beats. He ain't gonna be able to outdance Big Daddy Kane.
I was gonna say that too.
You gotta dance. Step into the world. Step into a world.
Come on, son.
I don't want his response to Big Daddy Kane to be a Puffy produced track. Like, I don't want even I don't want that.
Yeah,
that was part of the argument. In fact, your doctor, somebody made a similar argument that this was part of the description of the hits that Kane had, whether it's Raw.
Scrap, Set It Off.
All
I mean,
of
he
that.
got party hits.
Wrath of Cain, all of that. Yeah.
Listen,
Karen
I mean,
One
it's gonna be a problem.
Y'all still going with that hit shit? Then we go through this with the Locks and Dipset when y'all talk about hits. I mean, first of all, nobody is seeing Chris. The only person that would come close to him lyrically would be Black Thought.
Well, we ain't just talking lyrics.
That's not the only category, and I don't agree with that either. Because Pharoah Monch is still to me the best MC. But
KRS-One.
But
you need to
performing and
everything. I took KRS. I'm saying KRS wins, but I'm just saying on that list and on the issue of hits, which does move in some cases an audience, they had somewhat of an argument on that. But I was like, with the longevity, every decade he's got classics. He's ended people's careers. I mean, the quality of the verses. He rocks crowds.
And it's in New York.
He does every single thing.
And Kane got the ladies. Kane got the ladies on lock. You ain't got no what KRS-One song. Dude. You're gonna be like, oh, Smooth Operator. Who's gonna go against Smooth Operator?
Step into the world. Step into the world.
You gonna keep saying that one?
Saying step into a world.
That's all I gotta say.
But I've been in clubs where you play Black Cop or Sound of the Police, and that's as much a danceable track.
Oh yeah.
As anything from Kane. So that's what I was trying to say. Like
that's a head nod track. That's a that ain't dancing. We talking.
But that's the dancing I do.
Dancing with, I get the job done dancing.
What was the joint from I'm Gonna Get You Sucker?
That's damn. You messed me up right now.
I can't take the joint, but that
even that's a little dance to it. Jack of Spades.
Yeah,
the Jack of Spades, right? The Jack, and that was a beef track too, if I'm not mistaken, right? When he going for money.
Everything was a beef track with KRS, man.
With KRS, exactly.
I mean, but the South Bronx, Criminal Minded, all that, it is still
My Philosophy, still number one.
We talking about New York,
5 years to recover from that, yo.
Dude, I'm still number one alone. If that plays, it's going to be an uproar. You just have to understand that, man.
And what I was saying, even in the barbershop, which was dismissed, was that people have missed a lot of KRS's more recent production. I mean, he has been prolific and consistently putting out good work. So like the album he did a couple years ago with Bumpy Knuckles, he did another one with Premier. He's done so much stuff that they don't rise to the level of hits because he's not allowed on iTunes, or Spotify at the levels of others or whatever. He doesn't get that level of promotion, but he's been consistently putting out incredibly good music for a long time. So and unfortunately I haven't heard much, from Big Daddy Kane.
It should have been Rakim against Big Daddy Kane because
I agree.
Like I said, KRS-One got 26 albums compared to Big Daddy Kane like 8 or 9 albums.
Yeah, I'm not saying everybody want to hear on 26 albums worth though.
That's true.
Not saying that.
Maybe the first 5.
Classics. Yeah, but KRS-One, I versus Public Enemy. That's the only battle I can see. That's like it's got the political material. They got bangers. Although in that fight, it's a group versus. You think KRS-One is better than PE?
No, I mean I think they both good at what they do, but when you talking about,
they're very similar in terms of.
You talking about MCing and whatnot? That's a different.
Well, that's true. No, yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to say. I'm not trying to say that Chuck D is on a level of KRS-One.
I don't think Chuck would say
he can MC now. Don't front.
But Chuck, I don't think Chuck is not an MC like KRS-One. And I have to say this:
someone's calling Chuck to the party. KRS-One can come to rock a party.
Chuck had somebody write an album for him, so like I can't.
Yeah,
it hurts me to say that, but that album he did with Paris was written for him. I could never see KRS-One having someone write an album for him. But listen, because I know you got, I gotta go, and I know you got guests coming. But one of my students just asked, and I think we should throw this out for future discussion. What do I think of films like the forthcoming film about Emmett Till? Do I find them of any value? So I just want to throw that out there. Shout out to my brilliant Africana Studies students and the level of questions that we generate in these joints. But anyway, I think that is actually a good question. It's something we should discuss at some point.
Real quick, I would say that for you younger generation that don't know, it's always, they need to know. So they need to know what happened then. For the ones that don't know, for us that do know is kind of traumatic. It's traumatic. Like, we gotta see this again. Every time we see a movie about black people, it's either slave movie, it's either somebody that got killed, somebody that was a martyr. Same movie. So, but for the younger generation that don't know about the story, it needs to be told.
All right, there it is.
And I'm out.
Thank you, Ear Doctor, and I'm out as well. So peace, everybody. See you tomorrow. Thanks again.
Cool.
Okay. All right.
Come on. Guess, sir?
You have a guest, sir?
I have a guest, sir.
Okay.
Ready to hit that button?
There you go.
Let's do it.
There you go. We out of here.
Bam.
Bob Franklin in the building.
Hey, everybody. Hey, Miss Roberts, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. So for our audience, I want to introduce, we have Sister Tiffany Roberts, who's going to be joining us. We wanted to talk a little bit today about Atlanta and Atlanta criminal justice. In particular, Tiffany wrote an article, and I'm going to give you a brief bio, Tiffany, in a second, called The Collapse of the Criminal Legal Reform in the Black Mecca. And it just recently ran in Essence. And the article hit me because, recently the organization I'm associated with, we've been doing a lot of work on anti-policing, on working around bad policing, I should say, in terms of stopping Cop City. And Tiffany Roberts is somebody who's been doing that work in various forms for a long time in Atlanta. And just currently, let me give you a quick bio. So Tiffany Roberts is an attorney with the Southern Center for Human Rights. She has been a civil rights attorney, a criminal defense attorney in Atlanta, and practicing since 2008 as a defense attorney. She's represented hundreds of indigent clients facing felony prosecution and graduated from the Gideon Promise Child Advocacy Training Program. She's worked particularly on closing down the Atlanta jail. And so that's partly what we want to talk about when we come back. So I want to thank Tiffany for coming on. I really appreciate you doing this for us. And how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. It's morning. It's like Monday part 2. So I'm okay, but a little sleepy.
Cool. So let's start with the Atlanta public jail closing, because that was something you were heavily involved. And I think that really adds to the article that you wrote, in essence, around the missed opportunity for criminal justice reform. So can you talk a little bit about what that work was to close? Because there were some promises made about closing down the jail. But why was there a focus on closing that particular jail? And how did that lead to your participation in working with particularly Keisha Lance Bottoms, who's currently the mayor of Atlanta?
Sure. So Marilyn Wynn, who is our friend, she is the founder of Women on the Rise, which is an organization led entirely by formerly incarcerated women of color, mostly Black women. And Ms. Wynn had spent quite a bit of time in the Atlanta City Detention Center and in other carceral facilities before she became an organizer. And so she launched a campaign to close down the jail toward the end of Mayor Reed's term, and he immediately preceded Mayor Bottoms. And so at the time that Mayor Bottoms took office, her first piece of legislation was bail reform. Ms. Wynn was in those rooms as well. It really was a community effort to bring bail reform to the table in Atlanta. And I was on a progressive agenda working group led by myself and another attorney, Miguel Dominguez. And we had a whole set of recommendations to the city. And one of those recommendations supported Women on the Rise's push to close the Atlanta City Detention Center. The reason it was important is because the language that Women on the Rise and the Communities Over Cages Coalition uses is that it's an extra jail. And that's not to suggest that we need all of these cages, but the jail was built for the Olympics. And after the Olympics, the city of Atlanta routinely rented out spaces
space or beds to other facilities. For example, when I was a public defender, some of my clients were held in the Atlanta City Detention Center because Fulton has always been an overcrowded jail. And so we supported Women on the Rise's call. And then thereafter, Andre Dickens, who notably now does not seem to support the immediate closure of the Atlanta City Detention Center. He authored legislation to set up a task force to reimagine the Atlanta City Detention Center. And I served, Ms. Wynn was one of the directors of that process. And I was one of the members of that task force. It's just a tremendous waste of money. It's part of the city's legacy of hiding our poor, of hiding people who are unsheltered. And the money could just be used for so much healing as opposed to it being used to unnecessarily punish people who are accused of things like jaywalking.
Now, that's interesting because I don't know a lot of folks knew that part of that history of that jail, unless obviously you're involved in the sort of day-to-day work around closing it, that the jail was built during the time of Olympics as sort of an overflow holding area. So that's really interesting to point out. So it seemed that at one point there was a promise from Mayor Bottoms to close the jail. Can you talk a little bit about where you guys felt, again, for those who are working sort of intimately on the process, where all of a sudden it started to be a retreat from, let's say, the promise to close the jail, and what happened again when you guys started noticing that there seemed to be this retreat? How responsive was Mayor Bottoms in trying to have conversations about why she no longer wanted the jail closed or was no longer recommending it to be closed?
So I want to first say that Mayor Bottoms has not said that she no longer recommends that the jail be closed, but what we've seen is processes just become stale, to become stagnant. And so the final meeting, in-person meeting for the task force, we met for a year. And there was a policy working group. There was a working group around like the architecture of whatever this Center for Wellness and Healing would be. And then there was a programs working group who was responsible for figuring out what kinds of services people needed in the new facility, because it was to raise and replace or to repurpose the original facility for a center to become a Center for Equity and Wellness. And so that last meeting was February 2020. And there was supposed to be another one after that. But remember, like right after that is when we started to see the effects of COVID. And so the final reports had been drafted. The language for each working group had been approved. But instead of us having a final meeting, the reports were just released. We weren't able to really convene within that short period of time. And then by March and April, of 2020, during the pandemic, we started to see so we started, and we being like the broader criminal legal reform landscape in Atlanta, started to push around releases because we knew, like, even though we didn't know a lot about COVID, we knew that jails were going to be a hotspot because people can't wash their hands, people can't socially distance, people didn't have PPE, and we started to focus on that and protocols for arrest, like to arrest fewer people so that they wouldn't be sent to these jails. I would say around that period of time, when conservatives started to be concerned that people were, conservatives are always concerned about who's getting out of jail, right? They always want to make sure that they are caging as many people as possible and that there's space to cage more. And began the additional push from Buckhead for people not to be released because of COVID. I think that sort of like stirred the pot. And we stopped seeing public comments from City Hall about jail closure. So Mayor Bottoms was quoted as once saying, "We will no longer be in the jailing business." She never came back to us and said that she didn't support jail closure. And she pushed back against people like Patrick Labatt, the sheriff, who wants Fulton to buy ACDC. But those were not public declarations. And we talked about this as social justice folks, that the failure to do so publicly allowed everyone else to just crowd the space, right? Take up all of the air. And then when we started to see the nationwide rise in gun violence, right? So noting that crime is what we call crime, right? Criminalized acts are down generally. Gun violence is up. And what public health professionals are saying is that has more to do with the pandemic than anything. But allowing people to take up all of the air talking about a crime wave when it really is a gun violence pandemic made it so easy for those who never supported jail closure, like Michael Julian Bond, like Patrick Labatt, right? So he ran for sheriff after realizing his jail, that he was the former Department of Corrections chief in Atlanta, realizing that his jail was going to be shut down. So he hopped to another facility, ran for office in Fulton. Those people who never supported jail closure got to exploit the campaign and hold up at rising crime as the reason that the jail shouldn't be closed. And now everyone has, not everyone, but many people have bought that hook, line, and sinker.
Now, you said that Mayor Bottoms has never come out and said that she's not for the closing, but we're obviously entering the last stages of her mayoral life, and she's obviously not running for re-election. So I have two quick questions. One is, based on what you said, and do you think there is still hope that there will be closing before her term is actually up? Because if Kasim Reed gets in there, I have serious doubt that he's going to close the jail. In fact, if anything, I think he's maybe has made public statements to the opposite. And then secondly, I wanted you to go back a little bit around, we mentioned the pandemic. What impacted the killing of Rashad Brooks and sort of the national movement around the issue of police brutality have locally on your campaign? Did that do anything to push the campaign forward at the time? Did it feel like that was adding some urgency to it? Before this latest, again, this new narrative that's recently gotten painted as like this rise in crime is now taking over the idea of like the police is now our friends again, particularly in mainstream rhetoric, right? So, two things. So one, do you think there's still a chance for it to be closed? And then what's the impact of some of the rallies and demonstrations and the movement that happened last year on the campaign that you guys were working on?
So the first question is, do I think there's still hope? I think that there's still hope because we can't forget that city council is necessary, right? So the mayor has the power to negotiate contracts, but city council has the power to authorize that negotiation. And so the first thing that needs to happen is that city council needs to pass some legislation setting a closure date for ACDC. In the same way that council member Dickens, now candidate Dickens, authored the legislation for the task force, city council has the power to authorize legislation right now that sets a closure date and sets out the purpose of that facility or that land moving forward. Because at the end of the day, whether or not Mayor Bottoms will be vocal about the closure, that is of less consequence than whether these city council people will get on a good foot. And the one thing that has happened is the mayor has refused to negotiate with Fulton around jail beds, except for to say that Fulton could have, I think, 150 beds for a diversion or transitional facility, or a transition space for people in a diversion program. Well, Fulton has said, it's like, oh, we don't have 150 people they want 500 beds, but they're saying out of the over 1,500 people, probably now almost 2,000, if not more, people at the jail, that there are not 150 people who could qualify for a program that would allow them to be released early. And so the one thing I can say is the refusal to negotiate that contract. You're right that whoever is elected next is likely to jump headfirst into negotiating that contract with Fulton if city council doesn't act urgently, because all of the top candidates, with the exception of Antonio Brown, have said that they will not immediately close the Atlanta City Detention Center. So, and that is the power of the public safety narrative being hijacked by people who most of the time don't even live in this city, who never cared about what happened in Southwest Atlanta or West Atlanta or on the South Side, right? Those are the people who are controlling the rhetoric. And so city council really needs to, instead of worrying about how to be elected to a higher office, one, for them to look at the data, which says most people in Atlanta do actually support repurposing that facility, that we did our own survey. Zuri Murphy launched a survey, and it was before Cop City. And most Atlantans did not support Cop City. Communities Over Cages launched a survey, and most people do support using that money in that space for healing and to afford people the resources that are needed to thrive in the city with the highest wealth inequality gap, right? We are one of the most segregated cities, in which it is also the most difficult to move from poverty to middle class, right? That's Atlanta. And so that's one piece. And then the second question was around the killing of Rayshard Brooks. The killing of Rayshard Brooks actually happened after, like, I think the first meeting we had of the Use of Force Advisory Council, which was, you know, all over the country during 2020, the summer of 2020. Cities were urged to have these use of force short-term councils that would research what was actually happening in Atlanta, in their cities, around police brutality. So shortly after that council met, I think maybe that week, Rayshard Brooks was killed, like 3 miles from City Hall. And the impact of it, I would say, on organizers was just like a very tragic confirmation that everything we've been saying to people about this city was true. What happened with the mobilizations is, because Atlanta sort of exists behind this facade of equity and progressive politics, what our elected officials did was they chose to have photo ops at certain marches. And so, you know, but they weren't really mobilized. They were just being highly visible during a time that it was politically advantageous for them to be visible. But when it came down to voting for Rayshard Brooks' bill, which was not to defund APD, it was to hold money until they made certain changes, they refused to vote for it after almost an entire day, effectively an entire day of public comment supporting this. There are some people who say that that's because Mayor Bottoms called council and told them they better not pass it. I don't know that happened, but if it did, it sort of speaks to, you know, what you see is not what you actually get in Atlanta, where we can go to other cities and if we have a figurehead that's easy to target, people are willing to organize. But in Atlanta, there is this unfortunate reality that people don't publicly criticize our Black elected officials, often because they're concerned about their own upward mobility. They want to know that they're going to be invited to certain spaces, certain galas, certain fundraisers, and also they want to be a part of the Black elite class, and that keeps them from being properly critical of the people that we elect to office.
So I want to, in your last paragraph in the article you wrote, in essence, again titled "The Collapse of the Criminal Legal Reform in the Black Mecca," it says, "The perilous web woven by Atlanta's Black misleadership class, white wealth, and law enforcement leaves justice-seeking communities weary. Yet we are determined to harness the power we have built until the day our leaders' courage matches ours." And then, based on what you just said about the role of the Black leadership class, and how they get a pass sometimes, not only because there's folks who want to be next to them in the middle class, but there's also, again, we've talked about this before, this sort of representation thing where we can't criticize the Black folks because they look like us. And then I know you talked about hope, but why do you have hope in terms of what our next steps can be, considering what you think about the Black leadership class to begin with?
I think it's because the hope that I have is primarily because the power that we built, that we know we've been building for decades, and that maybe the world saw during the last election cycle, it didn't go anywhere. And so the questions that we have are questions that organizers need to ask themselves with respect to strategy. And it's not a matter of if certain things will happen, it's a matter of when. And we know that there are people, so there are bad actors like Michael Julian Bond, who will do everything that they can to subvert, to obstruct, to discourage, and will do anything to make that happen. But we know that. And since we know that, it's our responsibility to organize around that and to be honest about what's actually happening. You know, I think there are people who probably come into organizing in this city or just come into the city and they have this ideal of who we are, but it doesn't take long to be pulled over or to be mistreated. And the black, when I say the Black men's leadership class, I'm also talking about people who think that proximity to entertainers is what entitles them to be our leaders. And I think as long as we remember that we elect people into office, that does not make them our de facto leaders, like our ideological leaders. Mm-hmm. They are the targets that we're looking at when we're organizing, when we're making demands. And so that's just what we have to continue to do. And I think you can always show them better than you can tell them. And so there were people who never thought that the conversation around jail closure or bail reform could happen, that the conversation could not even happen. But now more people understand that the persistence and the brilliance of Black organizing is the thing that we have to depend on, not Black wealth, not your concerts, not who's, doing your PSAs. Those things are just like peripheral tactics. But the core of who we have to be are folks who realize that this work requires actual sacrifice. It requires discipline. It requires political education, and it requires that we actually love one another, the whole of all of ourselves, regardless of what we bring to the table. We have to be willing to love one another and struggle with one another because we know what's at stake. And I think that eventually more in the city will find their way. But until they do, it's our responsibility to hold the work.
Thank you so much. I want to say Tiffany Roberts is one of the best organizers I've ever met in my life. One of the most dedicated organizers, a fantastic attorney, better attorney than I ever was and or wish to be. And she has been on the front lines of working in Atlanta for over a decade. So you're listening to the voice of somebody who really knows Atlanta, the city of Atlanta, who organizes day to day, who's in her community, who knows her community. So I want to thank you so much for making the time to come talk to us. And I hope to have you on again really soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Peace.
Peace.
We're going to come back and end out our Remix Morning Show.
Dope piece right there.
Yeah, man. Tiffany is on point. Like, just somebody who's been doing that grassroots work. And again, I give her more credit than me. Like, she works and challenges these elected officials. Some of us ignore them, but she actually challenges them because she knows that's where the power is. And we got to make them move, whether we like it or not. And so I really respect the fact that she's sort of grinding out in that work and trying to make sure that some of these policy shifts happen. So big up to her.
She definitely out there doing the do. You forgot to mention one most important factor about Tiffany Roberts, and that is the fact that she was an original host on Renegade Culture.
Not sure if that was the most important thing to mention, but yeah, I left that out her bio. I didn't see that in her bio.
It probably was good to leave it out her bio.
Yeah, she was like, I'm out of here, you crazy kids.
No doubt. But anyway, man, definitely good piece. You know what I mean? We appreciate all the party people, even though my screen froze. I think they sabotaged me today. You know what I mean? They tried to diss my shirt. I know they want it. I'm gonna be auctioning this off and giving it to charity. You know what I mean? To get the ear doctor some new clothes.
I thought you having it was already the charity. I can't.
Wow. Thank you, Silberg. Don't get cute. But anyway,
I had to add you, son. I saw him in the background lurking.
Oh no!
He said, "Man was lurking, man." What you trying to say?
I thought he had something to say at the end. You know what I mean? I said we hit that 10 o'clock hour. I was like, "There ain't no more segments, so you got something to say." Let's say it now.
No, I have nothing to say. I was just hanging out backstage, just watching, enjoying the show, man, and looking at that Billy Ocean shirt. That. But I'm out. I catch y'all tomorrow morning.
All
See you
right.
later, Uncle Fester. So, hey, 1 o'clock today. Make sure y'all check out.
That's right.
Check out my man Ward Churchill. Very important interview. Definitely one of our greatest analytical, critical authors and professors, so on and so forth, on the front line. Definitely check us out 1 p.m. on Riot Starter TV. Please tune in tomorrow morning.
That's right.
Yes.
Remix Morning Show.
8 a.m.
Yeah.
We out of here.
Peace.
Block out.